What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another SummerSlam Rewind. We are officially entering the year 2019. But before we get to that friendly reminder that BlueChew wants to sponsor your SummerSlam, if you're looking to have better, longer lasting sex, make sure to get the chewable tablet BlueChew. That is right, guys. Step into your BlueChew era and have better sex. You can do so by checking out the link in the description box below. But now let's go ahead and jump right into 2019 SummerSlam. All right, so as I mentioned before, these SummerSlams are definitely getting a lot longer. And 2019 was a lengthy one, but there was a lot of good stuff in this. So let's get to it. So the first highlight that I want to dive into for today is this match that I thought was absolutely phenomenal between Becky Lynch and Natalya. It was a submission match for the Raw Women's Championship, and I really loved this match. So I love this match for multiple reasons. First of all, I love the stipulation of it because it was essentially Natalya's sharpshooter versus Becky Lynch's disarmer. And I loved how basically they were so mean and so nasty with each other during this match, trying to get their submission in. And the cool part too during this was that we saw both of these ladies execute each other's submissions to try to finish them off. But Natty couldn't do it with the disarmer, and Becky Lynch couldn't do it with the sharpshooter. So I thought that was cool that they both went that far. The other thing that I want to mention too is how much Becky Lynch literally changed in 1 year. We were just talking about her the previous year when she attacked her former bestie Charlotte Flair, and she basically snapped, and then we start to see the man come about. So when you compare Becky Lynch to how she looked in 2018 and 2019, I swear it's a world difference. Like, you don't really realize like how fast she changed into this man character. Becky wins with the disarmer. It was a really cool stipulation and a really cool match. The next highlight that we need to get into is Goldberg defeating Dolph Ziggler. So this was, I thought, a fun one as well because Dolph had basically gone in and he had been burying like all these legends, right? He had buried Shawn Michaels. He even included Goldberg in there and a bunch of different people. But primarily it was Shawn Michaels, who he had been like burying and it's saying like awful things about. However, there was a really great line that Shawn Michaels hit to Dolph Ziggler when he basically told him that it was sad that he would never live up to him. And he called him a second rate HBK wannabe. And I thought, damn, that was low. But Dolph Ziggler basically kind of screws himself and he ends up signing a contract to have a match. And he thinks the match is going to be against The Miz. But then turns out that it wasn't. Instead, the match was against Goldberg. And so in the beginning, it was kind of fun too, because I like the way that they laid out this match too. So Dolph basically surprises him with like 2 super kicks, and everybody in the crowd is like, oh shit, what? Like, he just went out there and super kicked Goldberg twice. But then, of course, we see Goldberg hit him with the spear jackhammer and gets the win. This was freaking hilarious and an entertaining matchup, and one of the last entertaining Goldberg matchups that we'll be talking about in regards to SummerSlam. But hey, that's what it is. Let's go into our next highlight. The next one that I want to talk about is AJ Styles defeating Ricochet for the United States Championship. I was a little disappointed in this match because basically the story in this match was that AJ Styles basically didn't want to let Ricochet have a fast-paced match. He didn't want to let Ricochet go out there and be all speedy and doing agile shit. He didn't want any of that. So he kept sort of avoiding it. And so it kind of made for a far less impressive match. And of course, AJ Styles was a heel, so that's the kind of match that he wanted to have. But I just didn't really care for it that much. I don't remember how I felt about it when I watched it live, but rewatching it now, I kind of felt like, man, we should have just gotten AJ Styles going full throttle, doing all of his agile move set, as well as Ricochet. And we did get some cool little moments here and there, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of slow moments in between those cool moments. But he retains AJ Styles, and the finish was cool because he did catch him off the top rope and then out of nowhere hits Ricochet with the Styles Clash. So that was pretty awesome. Alrighty, and here we go on to some women's wrestling. Here is the next highlight that I want to get into, and it is Bayley defeating Ember Moon for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. Not too much to say about this. I thought that this was a really solid match, and the crowd did pop for the big spots because you know that Ember Moon can do some really cool stuff. Bayley retained retained her title, but I think the only thing that was unfortunate about this match is that I don't think the crowd was as into it necessarily, because they really had only done so much with Ember Moon at that point. And of course, people love Bayley, but I just don't think that the hype was there for the actual matchup. But people, again, did react to those big spots. But this was still a really good match. Like, I had a good time watching this back. And next up, a match that I thought I was going to have a more fun time watching back. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon with Elias as a special guest enforcer. This, I don't remember, for some reason, I don't remember how I felt about this either. For some reason, I just like blanked on 2019, which wasn't even that long ago, guys. This is kind of scary. When I was rewatching a lot of these, like, more recent SummerSlams, like for example, like right now I am currently watching 2021 and I remember so much from it, but 2020 I remembered like half of it, but the things I don't remember, I'm like, what is wrong with me? This was only a few years ago. You talked about this. Why don't you remember? What is wrong with you? Kind of a little freaky, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I was a little scared about that. But anyways, I didn't remember how I felt about this match, but for some reason, when I saw it on the card for SummerSlam 2019, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. It really wasn't that good. And I was waiting the whole time going, why'd you think this match was great, Denise? But anyways, it was KO and Shane McMahon, and this was like okay. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't awful, but I think I built it up in my head as something totally different. But basically, KO gets him with a chair shot. Low blow to Shane McMahon. KO hits him with the stunner, wins this match. And I was really surprised that we didn't see some like crazy ass spots between Shane or Kevin Owens, because I feel like they have done such crazy stuff that I was definitely expecting a lot more out of this. And a match that I thoroughly enjoyed, everybody. This was so freaking good. Was Charlotte Flair defeating Trish Stratus. And here's the thing, I feel like legitimately Trish Stratus gets better with time. I feel like, again, I really wasn't a big fan of hers in like her early career, but then again, it was probably because I was a really big Lita fan. So that was probably why I was anti-Trish. Oh, and also I was a big Stephanie McMahon fan, so that was probably why I was also anti-Trish. Two people that she did feud with a whole lot in her early days. And then also I was a big fan of Chris Jericho, and I didn't love their whole story. So maybe that's why I wasn't a fan of Trish, because she was sort of always feuding with my favorites. But anyways, so in this matchup here, like, you know, obviously this is 2019 and we went on to see Trish Stratus come back later on in several, you know, for several more matches we have seen her wrestle. But I truly feel like, having seen so much of her matches and stuff, especially when I went back to my WrestleMania Rewind, just everything that I've gone back and I've watched over the years, I really truly feel Trish Stratus has gotten so much better with time. But anyways, this match really had people hooked. Of course, it was in Toronto, so you had Trish Stratus, you know, people were interested in their Canadian people. But Trish at one moment gets Charlotte in a figure four, but they're going back and forth. They're doing so well. The crowd starts chanting, "This is awesome." There was a really cool moment where both of these girls just start smacking the living crap out of each other. And that's always one of my favorite things to see in matches. And they kind of killed it there. But eventually Charlotte ends up winning with the figure eight. But this was truly an awesome match. And I personally think Charlotte's best SummerSlam match at this point. So yes, shout out to both of these girls. I would go back and watch this again and recommend it to all of you here to go back and watch. One that I wouldn't necessarily recommend for people to go back and watch is this next highlight here, and it is Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton in a double countout for the WWE Championship. This was very unfortunate. Of course, right now we are, in this period in time following Kofi Mania. Kofi Kingston is the WWE champion. He won the title at WrestleMania 35. Such an awesome freaking moment, right? But Randy Orton was basically calling his victory a fluke and saying that he was stupid and living in a fairy tale, that he wasn't ready to be champion. And for Kofi Kingston, beating Randy Orton would essentially be vindication, right? And here's the thing about this match, guys. Like, there was some cool moments. The match was good. It was just the finish that really just kind of like ruined things, because we end up seeing Kofi Kingston go to the top rope. He goes to the top rope, and instead we see Randy Orton get him with a RKO out of nowhere, of course. But instead of him going for the pin, he doesn't go for the pin, and Kofi Kingston rolls out of the ring. Once they go out to the outside, all of a sudden, they don't even realize that the referee is counting. And then they start getting all nasty and mean and they start fighting on the outside. Boom, 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 all of that. And they get counted out. It's the shits, guys. It really sucks because I do think that it was so important for Kofi Kingston to get such a win over Randy Orton. I think that should have been the call that they should have gone with. And so, yeah, this was an unfortunate finish here. They do have Kofi Kingston like snap afterwards, and he gets Randy Orton with a bunch of kendo stick shots afterwards. So he's like pissed. He's going off on him and even hits him with the Trouble in Paradise. So he gets like his moment back, but I feel like they could have definitely had him get a clean victory over Randy Orton here. All right, but let's go ahead and continue this and let's get into the next highlight here. And the next one is the Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Finn Balor. So as you guys know, these two guys do have history on SummerSlam. We've seen both of these guys wrestle each other before, but it was polar opposite the last time we saw them wrestle. At SummerSlam, it was it was Finn Balor as the Demon and no Fiend. It was just Bray Wyatt, and the Demon cleaned out Bray Wyatt very, very fast in their match. So this was almost like revenge for that. And like the roles have been reversed because this time Finn Balor is not the Demon. He's just Finn Balor. And this time Bray Wyatt's not just Bray Wyatt. He's the Fiend. So I almost feel like this was them sort of getting his moment back for Bray as the Fiend. So, and this was a quick one here. Finn goes for the coup de grace, but instead the Fiend gets him in the mandible claw for the victory. Now, this next match, I am so excited to talk about because I had the best time watching this. And the one that I'm going to get into now is the main event, the WWE Universal Championship. Seth Rollins defeating Brock Lesnar. So let's talk about this because this was hella freaking good. So basically, before heading into this match, Brock Lesnar had done like this very nasty attack on Seth Rollins, where Seth Rollins was basically being stretchered out to the hospital following in the attack that Brock had given him. But then it got worse. Brock Lesnar literally F5'd him on top of a stretcher. So basically, Seth Rollins goes into this match beaten, battered, and bruised, right? He's definitely not at 100%. He's going through it, all right? He's not the best version of Seth Rollins here. And Brock Lesnar, guys, just keeps beating the living crap out of this man. And he is just completely manhandling him. Seth does hit a stomp very early in the match, but Brock kicks out and everyone was like, oh shit. But the cool part was that every time that Brock hit him with a suplex though, Seth kept landing on his feet. So then that did allow Seth Rollins to get a little fight in this, but there was also like so many moments where he was just really whooping Seth Rollins. Like there was a really cool spot that I liked, and this was the photo right here, was when Brock grabs him by that tape that's around his ribs and uses that to freaking swing him and then launch him legitimately like a sack of freaking potatoes. He suplexes him a bunch, and then there's this really great moment too where Seth Rollins goes to the top rope and hits a freaking frog splash from the freaking top to the outside with Brock Lesnar there on the commentary table. Like that was crazy, especially considering that the whole thing was that Seth Rollins was not 100% and it was his ribs and everything. And then he went and did a spot like that, which was just freaking nuts. And then after that, we do see Brock hit him with an F5. I mean, so much back and forth goes on, but eventually Seth Rollins does end up hitting him, I believe it was with 2 curb stomps, and then finally gets the win over Brock Lesnar. Like this was an incredible freaking matchup. Like please go back and watch it. It was very, very enjoyable. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our ratings for SummerSlam 2019. Best match, guys, I of course have to give it to Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins because like I just said, it was so freaking good. Worst match, I have to give it to Kofi versus Randy just because I did not like the finish. MVP, I have to give it to Seth Rollins for that incredible matchup with Brock Lesnar and then also for him winning the Universal Championship. And as for the rating, I'm going to go ahead and give this show a 10 out of 13 because there was a lot that I really liked. I really enjoyed Becky versus Natalya. I liked Goldberg, Dolph Ziggler. AJ Styles Ricochet was okay. I did like Bayley, Ember Moon, Kevin Owens, Shane McMahon. Charlotte Flair versus Trish Stratus was good. Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton was the only one that kind of docked some points off because of that finish. Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor was fine. And then, of course, that Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar match was absolutely phenomenal. So there you go, a 10 out of 13 for SummerSlam 2019. So again, not too bad. Alrighty, everyone. But if you want to get a full 13 out of 13 in your performance, make sure you guys check out BlueChew promo code Denise in the description box below. And we are almost there, guys. We're almost finished. We're almost rounding out this series. I cannot believe it. I've gone through it. We've all gone through it. I mean, this has been like a whole thing the entire month, and I'm very proud of myself for making it this far. And thank you to everybody who's tuned into the videos. And if this is the first one you see, you guys can go all the way back to 1988, or hell, just pick and choose whatever SummerSlam you care about the most, and you can check out those reviews as well. So thank you to everybody who's been hanging with me in this SummerSlam Rewind. I recommend you guys go check out some of my favorites. My favorites being 2002, 2005 were definitely some of my favorites. And I had a really good time talking about this. That's why I always promote them. But that's about it for me here. Thank you guys so freaking much. And I will catch you guys on the next one.